And if not, we'll take a few from online, inshallah ta'ala. Don't worry, Moonis, you're good. The blue is good, don't worry, you're good, you're good. Alhamdulillah, it's good.
What about blue and Adidas?
Even better, even better.
Mufti, you spoke about, we touched on just, I know you've addressed this many times before, but the responsibility of a layman in terms of following a madhab or not, or seeking out certain...
Understood.
rulings, yeah.
We spoke about this last night as well, and many times before. Detail and balance. Those are the two cancers. People avoiding the details when they're necessary. People giving details when they aren't necessary. And lack of balance. Being fanatical for your agenda, for your cause. These are the two cancers that plague us. So therefore, following a madhab, studying a madhab, etc., there has to be details before the balance. From those details, there's a difference between studying a madhab and following it. There's a difference between following it and staunchly following it, blindly. There are details. You've come across proof and evidence. You've seen what Imam Abu Hanifa himself said. But you still say, no, I'm going to do this. That's not the same as someone who honestly just doesn't know. This is how I was taught on Sunday school in my country, and this is what I'm doing. So lack of the necessary details. Someone who has access to knowledge isn't like someone who doesn't. The scholar cannot, and I quote, the scholar cannot behave like a layman, and that's another cancer in this ummah. A graduate, imam, scholar, he wants to be a 9-to-5 blind follower. That's wrong. Ibn Abdul Barr of the 5th century, 463, 465, the great Maliki, some say Shafi'i, he's Ahlul Hadith, for he mentioned in his book, Jami' Bayan al-Mufaddih, is that there is consensus that the blind follower, laysa ma'dudan fi zamratil ulama, he is not in the circle of the scholars of Islam. The muqallid, the blind follower, is not a true scholar. It's consensus. All madhabs agree upon this. And you can also read how the qadi, the Islamic judge, must have the ability to make ijtihad. He cannot just be a blind following sheep. So the scholar, how he behaves, is not like how I behave. I drive trucks. I don't have the time to study. I drive all these hours taking care of my family. I'm not a scholar. Is it permissible? Ya Sheikh? It's permissible. Jazakallah khair. You reading, studying, you were overseas for all of those years. You can't take that same approach. And many people, they try to push their agenda upon people. They want the layman person to be independent overnight, and they want the independent person to behave like a layman. Bro, are you smarter than Abu Hanifa? Are you going to read something that he didn't read? Can you come across something that's the position, and that's wrong. And there are many other examples of lack of necessary detail. When what you're asking about pertains to halal and haram, the honor of a Muslim, the wealth of a Muslim, the marriage to a Muslim woman, etc., it's not the same as other issues. It's dangerous. Him saying it's lawful or unlawful, you have to tread with extreme precaution. Also, necessary detail is sincerity. What do you really honestly feel in your heart? You know that fatwa doesn't sound right. It does not sit well with my heart. He's read 20 times more than me, but that don't feel right. It's unlawful for you to follow that. Even though he's a great scholar, you can't follow that which you don't feel comfortable with. So there are rules to fatwas, asking and giving them. There are principles of reading proof, following, etc. Details. Without the details, black, white, chaos. And last but not least, we said, is balance. This is the position that I'm of, is that he who's traveling has to shorten his salah. You may not agree, you may disagree, that's fine. I have my proofs and evidences, hopefully you have yours. I'm not going to push my opinion on you and force my opinion on you. I'm not going to abuse you and talk down to you and guilt shame you and guilt trip you. Jazakallah khairan. Why do you do this, Mufti? Such and such, such and such, such and such. If that's good enough, alhamdulillah, and if not, Assalamu alaikum. Have a good day. So avoiding bigotry and fanaticism and pushing your agenda, and most people of all different countries and madhabs, they're guilty of it. But they want to just demonize one person and make it like the bad guys come from here. No, people in Egypt do the same thing. You're accusing it as they do the same thing in Egypt. They have the same fanaticism for their madhab, for their style, and for their Islamic scholarship. So don't be hypocritical. You have your way. This is why you have your way. You speak the truth. And one of the greatest pieces of advice that I'll share with you that was mentioned by a great scholar of Jordan, a student of a great imam. From his last advices, he said, "Qul kalimataka wamshi." He says, say what you have to say and keep it. It's haram to wear blue. This is the proof, etc., etc. That's it. I'm not going to abuse you and chase you and hunt you down and force you to adopt what I'm saying immediately. This is the proof, this is the evidence, and that's it. If you like it, we can all enjoy a cup of tea together. And if you don't like it, go have a coffee. So there has to be details. There has to be details. It has to be what? Balance. And whenever you see any scholar or student or caller being fanatical and extremely aggressive, know for sure that that's a red X on that person. Something's off. Because knowledge doesn't need a gimmick. Knowledge doesn't need a thug or a goon. It doesn't need a pole or a stick to beat people with. The knowledge itself is strong enough. But the people will come to it whenever they're ready, whenever Allah chooses to. You just secure your position. And that's the end of the discussion. As far as your children, your wife, that's a different story. People that are in your household, you have to enforce the laws that you believe are correct. There's no ikhtilaf. When it comes to, you can't eat this in my house, son. You can't wear this in my house. I'm sorry. وَهَكَذَا وَاللَّهُ تَعَالَى أَعْلَمُ وَإِيَّاكُمْ. Any other questions, inshallah? Tayyib. Question from online. It's coming from SS Cartagena, Colombia. Barakallahu feek. For your classes, Mufti, regarding hating something with your heart being the lowest form of Iman. What if that's all you can do? Is it still the lowest? That's a good question. Jazakallah khairan. If you don't have the ability to speak out against it or to change it with your hands, then one can argue that's the best that you can do. Versus someone who can change it with the hands but refuses not to out of fear or embarrassment or shame. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is that's still the lowest rank of faith. The scholars of Islam, from one thing we learn 10,000 things. We put two mirrors in front of each other, which will continually reflect. We learn one thing and it allows us to learn countless other things. The Prophet ﷺ clearly mentioned that women have deficiency with regards to their religion. نَاقِصَاتْ دِينٍ وَعَقْلٍ. They are deficient in their religion. The women, they asked, why is this? How is this? Is that fair? The Prophet ﷺ, he says, أَلَيْسَتْ إِذَا حَاضَتْ لَمْ تُصَلِّي وَلَمْ تَصُمْ فَذَلِكَ مِنْ نُقْصَانِ دِينِهَا. He says, when she menstruates, does she pray? Does she fast? Of course, we know the answer. He says that is where her religion is lacking. The man prays first of the month to the 30th of the month. There is no day off for men. But there's a time which a woman cannot pray. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said about a woman who doesn't pray and fast is that her deen is what? Deficient. So the scholars, they debate now. Listen carefully to this. When a woman does not pray and doesn't fast, does her iman go down? We understand the question or not? The Prophet said that her religion compared to a man is what? It's deficient, it's lacking. So when she doesn't pray, does her iman fall? Or she's doing what she's told not to do, and that is avoid salah. So how is it fair for her iman to go down? So some scholars say her iman, it doesn't go down because she's obeying Allah and His Messenger. And other scholars say rather it's naqs. So one can say about this hadith, even though you don't have the ability to change it what you want to, just hating in your heart is also the weakest level. Everyone understand the point I'm trying to get to? So there are two ways of looking at it. There are two ways of looking at it. Perhaps it could be the form or the letter. You guys get the example or not? Wallahu ta'ala alim. Next question is coming from the Bronx, New York, initials TA. Can you give a scholastic explanation of what tamyi' is? What makes someone a mumayyi'? At the end of the day, whatever term is used, whatever word you use, someone whitewashing, liquidating, washing down the religion. Whatever is supposed to be said, he doesn't say it for the acceptance of people and the love of people. And it's incorrect to do so. As far as hikmah, fiqh, it's not a wise idea to speak about this right now. There's a time for this, so on and so forth. That's a different story. And of course you have to be aware of these different terms and their concepts. But it's not about the term, it's about the concept. And for sure there are people who water down their religion. We ask Allah to protect us from that. But watering down a religion doesn't pertain to one aspect of the religion. It's just not about sunnah and bid'ah. You can water down a religion when it comes to politics, loving and hating, fighting. There's so many ways that people shave down the deen and make it Islam 2.0, which is a cool, tall glass of water that everyone can enjoy. And that's a problem. Islam is beautiful, and Islam is that cool, tall glass of water. But everyone doesn't like water. Some people are so used to drinking dirty, filthy water, they don't know what clean water tastes like. And they reject the clean water. So you don't defile your water because of people's bad taste. Wallahu alam. Last question tonight is coming from initials AA Anwar Ali from London. Assalamu alaikum Ustad, Jazakallahu khairan. Is it true to say that the Muslims that follow the way of Ahlul Kitab, such as putting down those that forbade evil, innovation, etc., are at threat? What's important is the Prophet ﷺ has warned us against imitating the previous nations, period. He warned us. And subhanAllah, if you just reflect on the Quran, if you just stop and think about it, how many times does Allah talk about the virtue of Bani Israel? وَأَنِّي فَضَّلْتُكُمْ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. I have given you preference over all other people. Think about that now. Allah gives them praise, heavy praise. The scholars from Banu Israel, the prophets and the messengers from Banu Israel, the lineage. Allah talks about Banu Israel. And yet and still, He warns us from imitating them in their bad and negative things. Their ugly ways. And from those ugly ways, is turning a blind eye to the evil, keeping silent, deaf, dumb, and blind, hear no evil, see no evil, I don't know, it's your personal business, that's from their ways. And punishing the weak, and pardoning the noble, and hiding the information, and cheating people, and saying that someone who isn't a Jew can be ripped off, and cheated. And the list goes on and on and on of their bad ways that Allah talks about in the Quran. So therefore, any imitation of the Jews and the Christians or any other nation that is against Islam, the person is at threat, for sure. Wallahu ta'ala alam, jazakumullahu khairan. With regards to the book club that we started up for the sisters, you can find a registration for that, inshallah ta'ala, online on our HadithDisciple Instagram page, HadithDiscipleshop.com, all of our social media outlets, our intensive class for sisters studying Hadith. We'll be starting our second semester in a few weeks. We finished the first semester. You can sign up for the first and the second semester now. Inshallah ta'ala, everyone is welcome to sign up for the book club, for the intensive classes, and all of our different classes and programs and services. You can find all of them on our websites. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina.